What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the video. My name is Day Reed, and today we are doing a simple Destruction Warlock tanking guide for Season of Discovery Phase 4. It has been a long time since my last video, obviously quite a bit of a drought from Phase 3 to Phase 4. A bit of a wait. I've been excited. I've been patiently waiting for a good time for me to make this video. Obviously, Phase 4 has been out for a couple weeks now, I believe. I just now have gotten the chance to, kind of sit down and play the game and actually kind of learn some things and figure some things out. So again, this is a simple guide. The purpose of this is to give you just a very quick, Spark Notes, fast rundown of a few topics. I go over runes, talents, rotation, and your main abilities, as well as your stat priority. Quite frankly, the stat priority, it's a little hard to kind of describe it, only because you kind of just look at your best in slot for the most part. But we'll get into that when we get there. So first things first, we're gonna go into our runes. It is Season of Discovery after all. And obviously the thing that makes it different is the runes, so we'll go over that first. These are my equipped runes, as you can see. That's what I'm rocking right now at the moment. So going into each one here, first our head rune is Pandemic. Periodic damage from your Corruption, Unstable Affliction, Curse of Agony, Immolation, Curse of Doom, and Siphon Life abilities can now be critical strikes. For my chest, I'm rocking the Demonic Tactics. This increases the melee and spell critical strike chance of you and your pet by 10%. Then for the waist, I'm going with Shadow and Flame. Your critical strike and fire and shadow spells increase your fire and shadow damage done by 10% for 10 seconds. Next, going into our legs, we have Demonic Grace. So Surge with Fell Energy increases your pet's and your own dodge chance by 30%, and your chance to critical strike with all attacks by 30%, last 6 seconds. Last few here we got Dance of the Wicked. You and your demon pet gain dodge chance equal to your spell critical strike each time you deal a critical strike to an enemy, and also both regain 2% of maximum mana. Wrist is Immolation Aura, burns nearby enemies for 32 damage every time an enemy makes a melee attack against you, no more than once per second. Reduces all magic damage taken by 10% and increases fire damage done by 10%. Lasts until cancelled. Obviously, hands, you got the Metaform, and then the two new spots really are your rings and your back. So for the rings, I am rocking the fire specialization as well as the defense specialization. I would say your second spot, you can switch it out for shadow if you want to. From the guides I've looked at and from places I've looked at, you're really either going to be rocking, you'll always be rocking at least one fire, and then you can either rock a fire and shadow or a fire and defense. I'm rocking fire and defense for right now. So just going over what each one does. So your fire specialization, chance to hit with fire spells increased by 6%. Not cumulative with other ring runes. And then defense skill increased by 25, also not cumulative. So that's what I'm rocking right now. And then you have the Infernal Armor. Your spirit becomes infused with demonic energy, reduces all magic damage you take by a percentage equal to your physical damage reduction from armor, lasts 10 seconds. And kind of going into some of the abilities, just kind of show you guys what's passive and what's not passive. So with this rune setup, obviously you have Metaform and Aura will be active for as long as you are in it, basically. Then you have 4 passives. Your Demonic Tactics, Dance the Wicked, Shadow and Flame, and Pandemic are all passives. And then your cooldown abilities are going to be your Infernal Armor, that's 1 minute, as well as your demonic grace, which is 20 seconds. So that's what it's going to look like for you with your runes in terms of how you put those on your bars or whatever. This right here is, I think, is the best in terms of going Destruction Warlock. Next, going into our talents. So we are rocking a 9, 8, and 34 with our talents here. So putting 4 into suppression. This reduces the chance for enemies to resist your affliction spells by 8%. And then 5 points into improved corruption. This makes your corruption instant cast. Then we put 3 points into improved imp, increases the effect of your imp's firebolt, fire shield, and blood pact spells by 30%. And then I went with demonic embrace. This increases your total stamina by 15%, but reduces your spirit by 5. So just a little bit of a stamina increase there with that one. And then finally going into our destruction tree. So I put 5 points into improve Shadow Bolt. Your Shadow Bolt critical strike increases shadow damage dealt to the target by 20% until 4 non-periodic damage sources are applied. Effects last a maximum of 12 seconds. Obviously, in putting 5 points into this is going to also benefit you here with your Shadow Cleave when you're in Metaform. So then we have 5 points into Bane, reduces the casting time of your Shadow Bolt and Immolate spells by half a second, and your Soulfire spell by 2 seconds. Putting 2 points into Firebolt, so reduces the cast time of your Imp's Firebolt by 1 second. Devastation, we're putting 5 into that, increases the critical strike chance of your destruction spells by 5%. And then putting 1 point into Shadowburn, just an ability. Obviously, this is a like a finisher. You cost 1 soul shard. Obviously, if the enemy dies within the 5 seconds that it's up, you get that refunded. But obviously, you get the Shadowburn spell there with that one. Then we have 5 points into improved Searing Pain, increase the critical strike chance of your Searing Pain spell by 10%. Then we have improved Immolate, put 5 into that, and this increases the initial damage of your Immolate spell by 25%. Then we have Ruin, we put 1 point into that, increases the critical strike damage bonus of your destruction spells by 100%. And then finally, you're putting 5 points into Ember Storm, increases the damage done by your fire spells by 10%. And that is what I am rocking with the talents. Again, we're doing 9, 8, and 34. Alright, as far as your abilities and your rotations goes, so for me, I personally prefer using Imp for my pet. I like to go with Imp. I believe if you're doing like a Soul Link type of style of play, you can probably use, I think Succubus is probably better, but if you're not, I would just go with the Imp. Making sure you got your Fell armor. This is really nice because it gives you 2% of your health back every 5 seconds. And then as far as like your rotation, obviously you want to have Metaform and your Immolation Aura up, right? Having that constant damage, the constant AoE, super helpful, adding more damage as well as just keeping people on you, keeping the mobs on you. And then it's pretty simple. So you're going to keep 3 dots up basically at all times. So if you're the only Warlock in your group, I would run with Curse of Recklessness. If you're not, I would run Agony. But mainly how tanking as a Warlock works is you want to keep your Immolate and your Corruption and your Agony up. Just keep that up on your target. Using your Demonic Grace whenever it's up every 20 seconds is very, very important. This obviously Surge of Fell energy increases your pet and your own dodge chance by 30%, so just helping you out with taking less damage. And then obviously using things like your Infernal Armor and your Shadow Ward. These are also like defensive abilities you want to use. Obviously longer cooldowns, 30 seconds, this one's a minute, using those when you need to, but those are more of your situationals. But again, going back to your main rotation, so Immolate, Corruption, and either your Curse of Agony or Curse of Recklessness. Those are gonna be your two that I would say work the best. Obviously, if you have if you have a lot of Warlocks, then you want to kind of work that out with them. But let's say you're doing like a pug, if you're doing a pug run or something like that. If you're pugging and you're the only Warlock, just rock Recklessness. If you're in a pug and there's a couple of you, just rock the Curse of Agony. I think that's the best thing to do. After that, your fillers are basically just Searing Pain and Shadow Cleave. And then obviously using your Menace, that's your taunt, so using that whenever you need to. So, but your filler damage is mainly going to be Searing Pain, and then obviously that 6-second cooldown is that Shadow Cleave. So your main filler is your Searing Pain, but your abilities right here are basically what you're looking at for like your main rotation. Like I said, keeping up your dots, that's what's most important, keeping that up, as well as using your filler of Searing Pain and Shadow Cleave, using your taunt whenever you need it, using Demonic Grace whenever it's up, and obviously, like I said, situational, but make sure you have your Immolation Aura, make sure you keep your Fel Armor up, don't let that run out, and then using your Shadow Ward and your Infernal Armor whenever necessary. But this is your rotation. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. And then obviously going into our next topic, when it comes to our stats that we need to look at as a Warlock tank, biggest thing is to make sure that you have a 16% spell hit chance, especially for this helps against level 60 and above mobs. Then you want to work on, make sure you have your stamina, and then your defense, spell damage, fire damage, armor, intellect. So those are your main stats. Again, making sure you have that spell hit where it needs to be at 16%, stamina, defense, spell damage, fire damage, armor, intellect. This part's kind of weird because when it comes to this part of the game, you're kind of just looking at best in slot, I would say, for the most part. So if you are running Molten Core, your best in slot, there are two different sets of Felheart. So the main set, let me take my tabard off so it's easier to see. So these Felheart robes, these first ones here, these are the caster ones. So this is not what you want. I'll just show you like one piece to kind of show you so you know. So the caster is going to be like a DPS Warlock is going to be kind of a more even stat line, 11 stamina, 16 intellect, 10% fire resistance. The tanking set is going to be the one that has obviously like double it. Like you look at here, 102 armor. You got this 202 armor, 30 stamina, 7 intellect, and then the 10 fire resistance. So you want to make sure when it comes to your best in slot, for the most part, your best in slot is coming from Molten Core, and it's going to be coming from this vendor. So again, you got your Felheart DPS one. The tanking set looks more like this. But yeah, you're going to be looking for the higher armor and the higher stamina. Again, like the shoulder, I got these shoulders already. 25 stamina, the 156 armor, obviously better than having 13 stamina and 15 intellect. So that stamina and armor are like huge stats for Warlocks, especially since we are Clothies. But that is basically what you need to know. I try to make it as simple as possible. Try not to ramble too much. But that is it for the Destro Lock tank guide as far as phase 4 goes at the moment. We'll see if I have to make more videos through phase 4. I know it's max level 60. I don't know what changes are going to be happening as more raids come out, so we'll see how much things change, let's say in a couple weeks or a month or so. But as of right now, this is the way to run your Warlock at the moment. So again, thank you guys so much for your time and for watching the video. And yeah, hope you guys subscribe, hope you guys like the video, and yeah, I think that's all I got to say. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.